Good morning.
You're a former prosecutor, and so is Bill Barr. He is a super skilled attorney. Do you really think today is going to be a big aha moment? Bill Barr knows exactly what he's doing.
Well, he has to tell the truth. He may be a good lawyer, but he's going to be asked questions about the positions he has put our country in the rule of law. And so, Stephanie, in our country in the last 3.5 years, it's really been Donald Trump first, every other America second. But Donald Trump is corrupt, but he's not competent. And so he can really only carry out a corrupt scheme if people like Bill Barr enable him. And we've seen this theme of protecting friends and punishing enemies, protecting Roger Stone and Michael Flynn, going after your enemies like Michael Cohen, and also, moving out the top prosecutor in New York who was investigating the president's inaugural campaign and his donors and his lawyer. So there's going to be tough questions today, and we want an honest assessment of the job the Attorney General is doing.
You mentioned Michael Cohen. You recently wrote an op-ed comparing Attorney General Bill Barr to the president's former fixer, Michael Cohen. Can you explain why? They have very different backgrounds, these two.
That's right, but they both do the dirty work for the president, and Bill Barr has power and authority that Michael Cohen would have dreamed to have had. You remember Michael Cohen tried to use a restraining order to keep Stormy Daniels from going forward. Well, Bill Barr has gone to court with the power and weight of the United States government to try and keep John Bolton from publishing his book. Bill Barr has tried to keep the president's tax returns from being made public. And so the only difference I see between the two of them today is that Michael Cohen sent his bills to Donald Trump and Bill Barr sends his bills to the taxpayer.
Wow. But you know the tone he's coming in with. You know exactly what he's done, or you believe. What is the number one thing you want to focus on when it comes to your questioning? Because there's a lot of ground to cover.
There is a lot of ground to cover, and I really think it's assessing his credibility and willingness to stand up to the president. At his job interview, his confirmation hearing with the Senate, he said, if I saw wrongdoing, I would call it out. And so please tell us, when have you called out wrongdoing? Because we're going to have a long list of wrongdoing we've seen. But also yesterday in his opening statement that he released publicly, Stephanie, he pardons Russia. He calls the Russia investigation, where there were 199 charges, 34 individuals indicted, a foreign country that interfered in a sweeping way in our elections. He called that Russiagate, and he called it bogus. And I want to know, is it bogus what they're still doing right now? Because we were just briefed last week, and the ODNI put out a statement that Russia continues to interfere in our elections.
You've called for Bill Barr to be impeached in the past. Are you still pushing for his impeachment?
I think he should have been impeached before Donald Trump. He's worthy of it, and I want to set a standard for what we expect of attorneys general in the United States. But that's a decision for our leadership. I personally believe that. I don't think he's gotten better since I made that call. But again, here he is today, and we'll be ready for him.
He hasn't gotten better. And in fact, if you look at things that have happened since then, I'm thinking Roger Stone, for example, things have gotten worse. Given all of that, let's be honest. Besides questioning Bill Barr today and hopefully for you tripping him up, what oversight can your committee realistically do while President Trump is in office?
Well, we have the power of the purse, and we also do not have to fund, the militarization of the police to use chemical weapons on peaceful protesters. We're doing an appropriations process this week on Homeland Security funding, and there's going to be a lot of measures to reduce their ability to do that. And also, Stephanie, we have to inoculate the public from the bogus claims the president and the attorney general have made about mail-in balloting. And so we want to make sure the public knows it's safe to do that. There's been no history of the department investigating fraudulent mail-in balloting, but the attorney general has shown a willingness to co-sign on the president's claims that there is fraud around this. And we think as we get close to November, this may be a way the president would refuse to leave office and have an attorney general who would go back to work as the new Michael Cohen to file lawsuits to keep the president there.
Is that what you think Attorney General Barr is doing? The fact that he's told the New York Times that he thinks a foreign adversary could print millions of fake ballots. Do you think what he's doing is A, either giving a playbook for a foreign adversary to do it, or B, starting to plant the seeds to claim that the outcome of the election is illegitimate?
Both. And we can't let it happen. Americans need to know that they can vote by home. They don't have to risk their health and their right to vote. And he should spend his time making sure that the election systems are secure, not trying to terrify people into thinking that their vote won't count. So we have an opportunity to inoculate against those spurious claims today.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.